stuck in your head.
Yes, we can.
Monsters under your bed.
President of the United States.
Monsters stuck in your head. We
Yes,
are
we can.
stuck in your head.
President of the United States.
Very controversial statue.
Yeah, it really is. The Satanic Temple of Detroit revealed the one-ton bronze statue. Their message, they say, more about laws protecting religious freedom than about Satan. Priya Mann joins us live. Priya, I know there were some protesters out there this evening.
To get tickets, they were told to step back, which they did. The Satan statue will be unveiled tonight at a secret location. As a small group of protesters prayed, hundreds waited for tickets to the unveiling of an 8-foot-tall bronze statue of a goat-headed Satan. Most of the people here agree with the teachings of the Satanic Temple, the group responsible for the event.
It's here, it's in Detroit, and this is fantastic that we get to experience this and we get to see this amazing statue be unveiled for all the world to see.
Took the heavy rainfall as some sort of sign and even brought their own statue of an angel crushing the devil.
Western culture, Western civilization was built by the Catholic Church. So for them to come out and want to make a statement that all of this is horrible, it's rotten, they don't, I feel sorry for them. I really, really feel sorry for them.
The Satanic Temple says the statue is a symbol for what they advocate, the separation of church and state.
This country was based on religious freedom, and tonight in what the temple is doing, this is a...
Ted Gunnison, respected law enforcement professional, recently or retired now from the FBI, former regional director of Los Angeles. Do you, sir, believe that these dreadful allegations of babies being sacrificed are true?
I absolutely believe it, without any doubt. Based on the information that's been given to me across the country by numerous survivors and by confidential sources and informants.
Then why don't you name these people and arrest them? Never a name, never an arrest. These women come out of a group and they insist that they know the people in the group, and yet they do not identify these large mysterious cults. Name them and arrest them and get them off the street.
Does he not make a valid point?
He makes a valid point. The problem with that is, number one, police officers don't believe it. I may believe it. You may believe it. Some people in your audience may believe it. They don't believe it. Number two, if you decide to investigate these people, you have to, number one, handle it from an undercover operation. If you put an undercover operation into effect, then you have, in a sense, your own police officers become involved in these heinous crimes, and they are, of course, become murderers. And in addition to that, if you do decide to investigate these people, there's a lot of work, and many law enforcement officers are apathetic.
You see his monument, and it's in the same form as Baphomet, the devil, Satan, Ahriman, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. And it's all part of their long-term strategy, folks. The building of the Senate Capitol has George Washington on the apotheosis, and look to his right, who's blowing the trumpet? And here we see George Washington laying the cornerstone in his Freemason full regalia. Who's running the show? But I want to focus now on the cabinet of generals that is in the Trump transition, the big badass dudes. And here you see a picture of them. McFlynn has been replaced by McMaster, running the NSA now and stuff. But let's find out a little bit more about these people. So John Kelly, let's look at his bio here. John Kelly is the designated White House Chief of Staff, former commander of United States South Command, Unified Combatant Command, responsible for American military operations in all of Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. Big hitter, folks. He succeeded Douglas Fraser as commander of U.S. Southern Command in Iraq. Okay? He was appointed to replace Reince Priebus as White House Chief of Staff. How about Bulldog James Mattis here? Retired Marine Corps, previously served as the commander of United States Central Command, responsible for military operations in the Middle East, Northeast Africa, and Central Asia. NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Transformation. United States Marine Corps Central Command. Mattis was confirmed as Secretary of Defense by the United States Senate on a waiver, as he only had been there 3 years out of active duty, despite U.S. federal law requiring a 7-year cooling off period for retired military personnel to be appointed Secretary of Defense. So they waived the federal law in order to put this mad dog, sycophant, psychopath, killing machine into the White House next door in power, okay? Wake up, folks. This country's under attack, or whatever this thing is we live in. Herbert Raymond McMaster.
Productions. Its name's been changed since then. I'm not even sure what they call it now, but it's the largest music conglomerate in the world. It owns RCA Records, Columbia Records, Motown Records, owns almost all the concert booking agencies in the United States. But the name of the company that owns it is Brenner Enterprises, and Brenner Enterprises is owned by Chase Manhattan. Chase Manhattan's owned by Standard Oil, and Standard Oil's owned by the Lords of London. You can track it on back. You kind of get the idea after a while. But I was the managing president of Zodiac Productions. It's one of my jobs as being one of these 13 people. Thus, I got to know many of the people who produce music and sing the music and play the music that you play. Now, one of the closest friends that I got was a man named David Crosby. I saw David the day before Christmas last year, talked with him. I said, David, I'd like to ask you a couple questions. I said, I already know the answers, but I've been gone for 5 years. I'd like to know if certain things are still the way they were when I left. I said, do they still take the master to the temple room? Dave said, yeah. I said, do they still have the coven conjure demons into the master? He said, of course. I said, now, I got to know something. What's the main reason for rock music? He said, come on, Lance, you know what the reason is. I said, please, David, I don't want to guess. Tell me what the main reason is. He says, the same as when you were in, so that we can play spells on people that...
Ever since I even discussed the fact that I had this plan, my life has turned into utter chaos. You can probably tell by the sound of my voice. It's pretty ripped up because of the devastation of what I've been through the past few days. I've experienced things like never before. I mean, I've been silent my whole life, but just over the past few days since I made that announcement, I've been arrested. I had a near-death experience last night where I felt like I was almost going to be killed. 2 trucks came speeding at me at the same time on a crosswalk. And then several of my band members decided to quit because they're afraid for their lives. I don't know what got into their heads. I don't know what they're afraid of all of a sudden, but they just left. And I'm very alone, but I need to protect myself, and I need to protect my family. I need additional security, and I need a legal team to help represent me so that I can fulfill this mission. What I'm proposing is a plan that I believe can literally change the entertainment system as we know it, and I believe that I can also bring down, potentially, a pedophile ring that I've been aware of since I was a child. Right off the bat, I can name 6 names. One of them who's still very powerful today. And a story that links all the way up to his studio. It connects pedophilia to one of the major studios. I'm very afraid to do this. It's not easy. I've been living in fear and been living with this my entire life. As most victims have, I've been made to feel awkward, misunderstood.
The most dangerous form of black magic is the scientific perversion of occult power for the gratification of personal desire. Manly P. Hall. I'll read that again. Listen to this. The most dangerous form of black magic is the scientific perversion of occult power, and I would use the term occult knowledge, for the gratification of personal desires. Is this what is taking place? Of course. You better believe it is. So that's what Hall has to say on the topic of an inverted pentagram, or a pentagram of Pax, a Faustian pentagram. And this is what he's talking about. What Faustian is all about is making a pact with other non-corporeal entities, possibly other dimensional entities. In Goethe's Faust, written in 1808, Mephistopheles was able to enter into Faust's study because Faust's pentagram was poorly made. One of its angles was broken, letting the devil in, letting this demon named Mephistopheles into his study. See, this is about bringing something that is negative, bringing a negative energy or demonic energy into some place. This is why it's put into the executive branch. It's placed above the executive branch, where the place where a dictator would likely to rise from, that branch of government. There's a reason this was placed here, okay? Mephistopheles says, now I'm going to read a couple of lines from Faust, from Goethe's Faust. Mephistopheles says, "Let me own up, I cannot go away. A little hindrance bids me to stay. The witch's foot upon your sill I see." Witch's foot, or in other words, footprint of the devil. This is what he's talking about. He's talking about the pentagram that Faust inscribed as a mechanism of protection in this ceremonial magic that he was conducting. Faust replies, "The pentagram? That's in your way? You, son of hell, explain to me. If that stays you, how came you in today?" In other words, he's saying, if this is preventing you from leaving, how did you get here? And Mephistopheles says, "Observe it closely. It is not well made. One angle on the outer side of it is just a little open."
Means the end, about what he's about. Now let's just take the word etymology. Now we got snowed in by Eric Snowden, Bernie made off with the money, sex escapades by Mr. Weiner, the senator. I mean, the names mean something to these people. Obama, bin Laden, Hussein, Barack, Joe Biden, bin Laden. It's all meant to confuse us, folks. It's all about babbling on in our definitions or definitions, okay? That's why we say hell when we say hello. So Trump, to surpass, to beat, to trumping, trumped, to deceive, to cheat. Get it? To blow a trumpet. Gabriel's trumpet, folks. It's all biblical. Last card played in bridge is the trump card at the end of the game. Player's card of a suit ranking above others. So here's a little disturbing for you Trump fans and Rudy Giuliani.
And it's everywhere. We're watching the downfall of the United States. We're watching them using wildfires, hurricanes, staged fictitious shooting events to pass laws and further stifle people like myself and other channels ad nauseum. Censorship is the order of the day.
Holes in roofs, windows shattered, trees uprooted.
We do know we've had extensive damage there. A lot of homes, a lot of businesses damaged.
Tonight, along the Texas Gulf Coast, utter devastation. In the town of Rockport, entire blocks are decimated.
We have nothing left.
And Amanda Evans is shaken. She was caught in the eye of the storm.
By 1 o'clock, it was terrible. It was so, I was crying. I was on my knees praying that we made it.
Her home gone.
Why didn't you evacuate?
We just didn't have the money.
We are on a rescue mission.
At 12:06 p.m. Monday in Houston, Benjamin Viesweth was live on Facebook. He was out rescuing people in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. A short time later, at 12:33 p.m., he posted this video. By now, Benjamin, two of his brothers, a friend, and his wife's stepfather were back in rescue mode, with two journalists from the DailyMail.com in tow. Benjamin's sister-in-law, Stephanie Jacquez, says their wives had said, "You did enough. You've saved lives already," and they all wanted to continue.
Hurricane Irma made landfall in the U.S. Virgin Islands today, causing widespread damage. In advance of the storm's arrival, the territory's governor ordered the National Guard to prepare for the coming catastrophe by suppressing certain constitutional rights. In an executive order issued on Tuesday, Governor Kenneth Mapp empowered the Guard to seize guns and ammunition from citizens, all to maintain public order after the storm, says the order. Why does confiscating citizens' guns make this catastrophe better?
Remember Katrina?
That includes New Orleans, where today authorities stepped up their efforts to empty the city. Bob Woodruff is there again tonight with an extraordinary human drama unfolding. Bob?
That's true, Elizabeth, and good evening from New Orleans. Here, the police and the National Guard find themselves in a very difficult position tonight to try to carry out an order to force people from the city without actually using force.
Today in New Orleans, they got a lot tougher on the holdouts.
Police department, anyone home?
Not only the flooded areas, but New Orleans' driest and wealthiest neighborhoods, too.
That's right. We all remember how heart-wrenching it was for the police, because look at them. They're not completely digging being loaded up with machine guns and Kevlar and everything else. These boys all came home from Iraq. They all came home from Afghanistan, which is what Iraq and Afghanistan were. They were to mind F our soldiers into going door to door, having no compassion, having no empathy, and none of them know the Constitution. These people tore people out of their own houses, out of their own property, and who can forget this poor woman? You see what I'm saying?
In here.
We're not gonna do that.
I don't want you in here, period.
But there's a mandatory evacuation.
I know all about it.
Irma, a Category 5, has already turned deadly on the islands of the Caribbean. The National Hurricane Center says chances have grown for a direct hit on Florida, possibly as soon as the weekend.
This is one of the most massive storms in the last 20 years. While looking for anomalies in this storm, I actually found one that, quite honestly, I find a bit amazing. Hurricanes will cause a good bit of water displacement, but I've never seen anything quite like this. The ocean has literally disappeared in the Bahamas. Literally, just disappeared. Not the tide going out, not a tsunami, just sucked away by the storm. As you know, the normal tide takes away about 50 to 80 feet of water on average. It comes in and it goes out about the same amount each day. In a tsunami, even a massive tsunami like the one in the Indian Ocean in Indonesia in 2004, the ocean only receded about 100 to 150 yards maximum. Then of course the water comes rushing back in with the tsunami and causes all manner of devastation. But to see an entire bay disappear is mind-blowing. I don't know how it's possible for an entire bay to disappear. I didn't know that a hurricane could suck that much water out.
But it seems that the water is retreating in southern parts of Brazil, and now it's coming up. It's coming up. Something is happening, folks. The water is retreating in Brazil. When it comes back, will it come back as a tsunami, or will it come back?
All of Puerto Rico is still without power and may have no electricity for months to come.
To Mexico now, where that country is dealing actually with two disasters tonight, including the strongest earthquake in a century. Nearly 60 people have died in that quake. The Mexican government believes that number will climb as crews dig through the rubble. The deadly
The breaking news, the state of emergency in California, where 12 wildfires are burning right now. One in particular, the so-called Valley Fire, is fierce, fast-moving, and fatal. And tonight, we've got the stunning images and the survivors, both human and animal. Here's ABC's Matt Gutman.
The fire swept down the valley with apocalyptic fury. Flames as high as skyscrapers hopscotching the canopies. Raining flaming terror. Families fleeing, navigating this hellish landscape. Cinders swirling in the air. 23,000 people displaced in Northern California.
Now, and I just want to quickly go over how this all went down on October 9th, the middle of the night, 12:30 a.m. We need to get out now. The ridge along Mark West Springs Road here in Santa Rosa, 6 miles southwest of Tubbs Fire. 12:30 had formed an undulating wall crawling up its eastern slope. The ridge is home to 400-acre Safari West. And here's the wind profile. You can see here, let me take it down a notch. So there's a wind profile, and you can see it came up in the middle. It started afternoon, and then at the midnight it peaked here at 80 miles an hour and then just dropped off precipitously, and all of a sudden it went back to 6 a.m. back to normal. So there was no storm that came through. But we get here, the Santa Rosa Fire Chief, Tony Gosner, said the killer fire started in Napa County and raced into Santa Rosa in 4 hours. A hastily assembled emergency operation sent out evacuation notices to the Fountain Grove area. We already showed yesterday that there was no evacuation notices sent out. Bullshit, yelled a man sitting in the gymnastics bleacher. These were people he was addressing people that lost their homes. He said he did everything he could to let you guys know, which I proved in yesterday's video. The evacuation orders for Napa and Sonoma County were not called because they feared of 500,000 people leaving at once. Give me a break. All right, so I want to also get into this map here. So here's what the fire chief is saying, that it started over here in Napa and then quickly spread in 4 hours all the way up here to this area in Santa Rosa and this area in Sonoma, and then went all the way north up to here and Cloverdale. It went up to there, and also up in Redwood Valley. The fire started in Napa and just spread. What a bunch of baloney. So they're going to spread it in many different ways, folks, but I want to bring your attention to some of these companies that are located around, and thanks to Malicious, my dear friend, who's came up with this and pointed this out to me. It's pretty amazing what we're going to see here in a sec. So this is a company called AEG Industries. Here's Santa Rosa. Here's Highway 12, 101, downtown Santa Rosa. 2 AEG facilities. And then here on Google Map, we see Keysight Technologies. That's another company we're going to get into here in a second. So these companies are located. This is the Fountain Grove area where the coffee and the major fires occurred in Santa Rosa, just north of me. And also Shanate Road for all you grammar Nazis who called me on not pronouncing it right. And Keysight Technologies, here's their website, but getting into them a little bit, we're finding out that they were former Agilent Technologies. Keysight was the electronic test and measurement division of the first Hewlett-Packard company. Okay, so this is Hewlett-Packard. They made revenues of $2.91 billion last year, so they're not any small enterprise. And here, Keysight Technologies in Fountain Grove, radar test of warfare equipment, military communications, satellites, avionics guidance, navigation, and GPS. And here we have RF microwave, lasers, folks, pulsed RF measurements. These are laser device companies. And let's go over to here to AEG, you saw the map of. Another local company is an engineering and manufacturing firm serving the needs of the aerospace industry since 1991. Their address is 1219 Briggs Avenue in Santa Rosa, California. All right, so we have these laser companies all around here, and I want to show you this. All right, so check this out. This is Keysight Technologies, former Agilent, former Hewlett-Packard, and check this out. This is a heat map from CAL FIRE, and what we're going to look at here is just dial it in and take a look at all the areas that got burned. All the areas except for, well, they did have a little burn, but look at everything that went around them. Keysight Technologies, maker of laser devices for the aviation military industry, Department of Defense. They were protected, folks. They didn't get hit. Neither did AEG. company called the Sonoma Design Group, and Northrop Grumman, one of the largest manufacturers of avionic weapons and aerospace, enters teaming agreement with Sonoma Design. This is back in 2003. Sonoma Group has signed a teaming agreement. They're making the Night Hunter 2. The Night Hunter 2 incorporates elements for several existing Grumman programs, including the Night Hunter EO surveillance, Lightning advanced targeting pod, and distributed aperture thermal imaging systems from Joint Strike Fighters for the U.S. Air Force, militaries, and worldwide. Our relationship with Sonoma Design Group has enabled us to raise the bar and performance standard for the EO, IR, and ISR targeting systems. The end product of this teaming effort is a system that provides the modern imaging capabilities that become a critical part of today's manned and unmanned airborne and shipboard platforms. Talk about the 11 and 21-inch light turrets they use, stability over the full 360-degree range, support for their laser ranging, and designation for targeting of the latest laser-guided or global positioning system-guided weapons, and scalable design that uses common gimbal architecture. Laser company, folks, for the military. Aviation. Sonoma Design Group is a technical engineering group based in Santa Rosa. Advanced EO sensors for use on numerous mobile vehicle platforms. They make electronic warfare systems, precision weapons, aerospace management systems. Right in our backyard. So this is L3's subsidiary, and here's your surveillance systems, emerging technologies, laser-fired systems that you see on the front of the drones, you see on the front of the military. We've been publishing here as well, right in our backyard. Now here's the parent company. This is where it gets really interesting. The parent company's in Cincinnati, Ohio. L3 Space and Sensors, the global leader in development, production, advanced night vision, electrical, optical technology, and systems for the U.S. military, federal agencies, blah, blah, blah. It's Warrior Systems. Bob played a key role in broadening the company's capabilities. Before joining, Bob served as several executive positions at Raytheon Vision Systems. Bob is a 10-year veteran of the Air Force, where he began his career as a Strategic Air Command as electronics technician on the SR-71 Blackbird reconnaissance aircraft. Bob, I'd like to ask you how you fly the curve, dude, but that's not the subject today. So you can see there's military all around us. This is another site from the L3. It's a work with several missile contractors, develop overall rocket motor performance. This is a subsidiary of the Sonoma Group that got acquired, Sonoma Design Group, 428 Aviation Boulevard. They were on the other side of the freeway. They got spared. The fires didn't get near them. But here you see they're modernizing their family of missiles, including the Hellfire. Well, here we go, folks. Here's your MQ Reaper Predator drone. And you see the laser nozzle right in there as well. So we type in Hell down here in the bottom and highlight it. And what do we find? MQ-9 can be armed with the Vire weaponry, including Hellfire missiles and 500-pound laser bombs, folks. Hellfire missiles, Hellfire missiles. These are the companies that are in our backyard that are providing laser-guided Hellfire missiles and laser beam technology right in our own backyards. You cannot make this.
Stress this enough. No matter where their drills are, no matter where they're spraying, no matter where they're setting up, be ready every single solitary day. We need to live our lives like there's no tomorrow more than any generation ever has before, because at least we're getting the clues or the red flags that the end could be at any moment. Now, when I say the end, I don't mean the end of the world. I don't mean that.
it.